things fully designed before you understood before you do anything.
Yeah, you're right.
And full design, it's not just some darker aesthetic from a random whatever.
I like the
Yeah.
process
There's reasons why it worked.
and it worked quick.
Yes, it did.
Jacob, do we have anybody online?
We don't. You're gonna notice something when we start though. It says roll call for the meeting recording and for notes whenever they're doing the meeting notes. They just ask that every committee member say their name as part of the verification of quorum.
Okay, and Alex.
That's me, hold on.
If they can't.
I'm gonna just wait 1 second for you to join before we start.
For who to join?
Alec,
Oh, yeah.
he's. I can see him crossing the green
Okay.
field.
There's no one online.
Okay, and we have a quorum, so it's. Good. There it is.
Hey.
Hey. On time, okay, good. All right, we're gonna start. So I'm gonna, in my capacities as the old chairman, well, to start, and then we'll roll into the new chairman.
Congratulations.
Call to order, I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum, but under new rules, I guess we all have to just at least say our name. So Jim Pinot, Joe Zalek,
Alec Ross, Mark Maturo, Robert LaPlante.
Katie Schultman?
Eric Overgaard, Jacob Waddle.
okay, we took to that. Meeting was properly, noticed, since we have no owners here, we will skip the, owners' comments. I am, going to take something out of order here. And I think we should all introduce ourselves so that our newest member understands who you all are. And then we can go into the, appointment of the chairman.
You gotta adopt it.
But I skipped that on purpose because.
So you want to do a motion to adopt the agenda with amendments and move discussion item A to the top?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Favor.
Uh,
Okay. So we're gonna start with, Joanna, we're gonna do some introductions for Robert, so he gets just. So we'll start with that. So if I could recommend besides the name, which I think you all know at this point, just a little bit about what we do, what our skill sets are, whatever you want, as short as possible. Jim?
I'm chairman of the Finance Committee for Celebration, and I've been on this committee since it started. Pretty much it. I'm retired. I was a CFO and a CEO.
My name's Joanna Abby Newman. I live on Nash Drive, so Roseville Corner, service area since 2019. Like Jim, I've been on master planning committee since inception. I just got on the finance committee this year. Accounting is my profession. I started like on my undergrad FAU. I also have an MBA.
Hi, my name is Joe Zalek. I've been a resident of Celebration for almost 25 years. I worked 33 years for IBM, various CFO positions. I love Celebration. Most of the people here, so I'm the master planning group from day one, and I helped put together the strategic plan, and I've been it ever since.
Alec, I've been a resident for 16 years. Also been part of the group since the inception. Work for Disney, do construction management, project management for all theme parks. In Celebration, I've been on the ARC. I've chaired the ARC. And so part of the little meeting in town. It's a small part. It's just a small part of it. Yeah. Mark Ventura, 13-year resident of Celebration. East Village. It's full of architecture for 32 years as architect, designer, planner. I bring to it also for this since the beginning. So, it's so much.
All right, well, I'm Robert Lamb, almost a 20-year resident. I am in the main village on Jasper Street. And I also work for Disney. My team does all the strategy and design work for all the toys that are developed for domestic parks as well as our Disney stores around the world. I have not served on a committee in a little bit of time, but was the chairperson of our comments committee under CCMC years ago. So and volunteered in many different events throughout time.
Katie Schultman, board liaison, and I'm in celebration in 2010.
Mayor Clifford, I'm your new board liaison, so I'm getting recessed into the liaising for the master plan group here.
Welcome.
I'm Jake Waddle, your general manager with Jail Manage. I've been here for just about 2 years and I've lived here since 2018.
We're all just staring at you, Lauren.
Oh, sorry. Lauren Gunyon, Executive Director. I've been in Florida for close to 5 years, the same amount of time I've been working here in Celebration, and have been enjoying working with this master plan group for the last couple of years.
I just wanted to put Lauren on the spot. So,
Okay. Thank you for that. Pleasure being here. Thank you. Good. All right, so now, first action item, we need to appoint a chairman and a vice chairman. Would anybody be interested in being the chairman? Good. Yes. Thanks, Jim.
all in favor of chairman?
All in favor?
Hi.
Okay, vice chair. Have somebody who'd like to be a vice chair. And that role is important because I do have 2 trips planned in the next 4 or 5 months where I will just not have access to any electronics. So,
I'd offer up to.
yeah, Jim. Second.
I was gonna recommend Jim, because
Okay.
last year, I
Yeah.
felt like I felt like Jim really stepped up.
Yeah.
On the vice chair.
All in favor of Jim?
Aye. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jim and Joe. Okay, next we have some administrative tasks. If you have not signed your code of conduct, please sign it by the end of this meeting. Give it to Jacob. If you have any questions about it? It was sent electronically. If you have any questions, feel free to ask somebody, Jacob. It basically, is something that was adopted a year or 2 ago because some 1 or 2 people misbehaved. So, provide people to have professional behavior, which has never been a problem with this group. Okay, next is a review of the consulting charter. There's 2. Katie, I think there's 2 things. So there's this, which I had not seen before, but this is kind of just roles and responsibilities.
So that section, yeah, was the review of the universal consulting body. Your consulting body is what allows committees and and advisory groups to exist. And there was just a few sections that we were going over with all of the committees, just as far as kind of what the parameters of the committee and how things can work and how if you were to be able to be kicked off a committee, why. And so there's a few items here that I'll just highlight if you don't mind, and then it'll just take a couple minutes and we'll move on, which is because we're doing this across all of the committees. There's a copy of this for everyone. A few of these items, I'll just go through them quickly, is section B, authority of the consulting body. The consulting body operates only to recommend or advise and shall work collaboratively with management to achieve specified objectives. 2, the committee task force shall not be involved in the routine management and operations of the association. 3, consulting body members shall refrain from conducting their own inspections, taking pictures of resident homes, and with their personal devices. That's pretty not applicable to this committee. And 4, a consulting body has no authority to act on behalf of the board unless expressly granted in the relevant governing document or given by the board in writing in advance. Skipping down to section C, articles 4, 5, 6. The term of each member shall expire annually at the end of April. Members may not serve on more than 2 consulting bodies at one time, and members shall not serve on a committee if there is an existing or perception of a conflict of interest related to the decisions facing the committee. In section D, appointment and removal of committee members, piece 2, 3, and 4. On 2, a majority must be present to conduct a meeting. 3, consulting body members must reapply every year. And 4, a consulting body member may be removed by the board with or without cause upon 30 days written notice. Cause can include violation of code of conduct, failure to attend meetings regularly, or no longer being in good standing with the association. And then just to end on the final sections F and G, the selection of the committee chair. We've already selected one, but if not, they can also be appointed by the board. The chair will work with me with management liaison in preparation of the agenda, that facilitate and lead the meeting. This includes encouraging input of all voting members. They'll welcome guests, determine whether discussion of non-agenda items will be allowed at the meeting or to be placed on a future agenda, and they're present periodically to the board. And then final section G is a role of management and board liaison. Management will provide a liaison for all consulting bodies, and the liaison will be determined by the executive director. The management liaison is responsible for preparing the agenda, coordinating any visitors, preparing information in support of the consulting body as needed, initiate action as needed from the meeting, including any follow up with volunteers on any issues. And the section 3, the board will provide a liaison for all consulting bodies. And the board liaison is responsible for communicating guidance or requests from the board to the consulting body, providing regular updates to the board, working primarily with management and the chair to help make meetings productive, respectful, and engaging, help guide the consulting body with specific roles, responsibilities, and opportunities for positive community impact. This includes redirecting discussions not within the specified role of the consulting body and attending as needed and appropriate meetings of the consulting body. Thank you for your time.
You're getting good at saying that.
Yeah, memorize.
So, I have a question concerning section G, subsection 2, subsection C. Providing information and support to the consulting body is needed. So Kenny and Aaron, do we have service levels with corporate?
Fine. Mhm.
In terms of like, so if we ask for information, what's a normal, or Lauren, what's a normal response? And I only ask that because I have found in the last 6 months that either don't get responses or don't get the information.
What do
So
you,
it's generally a 24 to 48 hour response time within a business day. It also depends on if you're emailing just one person and that person's out of the office. It depends on when they're getting back into the office. We encourage all committee members, if they're requesting information, to email both Jacob and I, because we kind of tag teams on providing information. Because I'll be honest with you, sometimes even if we are in the office, things get buried in our emails because we just get that many emails throughout the day, and usually one or both of us will catch it.
Okay. All right, well, good. So if that continues to be an issue, that's it. Okey-dokey. We're all familiar with the 2024 strategic plan, except for Robert. I offered to run for the meeting after he reads not the short version, but the long version online, when he reads it. If he has any questions, I'll make myself available, or if everybody here's familiar with it. The one, this report's now 2 years old almost, and it's holding up, I think, pretty darn well. I think the costs are going to continue to escalate for these projects because this costs are going up, maybe county, who knows where it is. But I'd say other than the cost, perhaps not being properly estimated, and that was on me for some of these projects. Other than that, we delivered the splash pad, kind of on the schedule we said we were going to go do, at the cost we said we we're going to go do, and that's the first project in over 8 years, if I do my math right, that we delivered to our residents. We're making slow but steady progress on sports courts and other projects. So I think Robert, you welcome any questions you have. You feel free to reach out to any of us. And you, yes,
If I could just add,
Yeah.
Maintenance shed. I saw it, it's not in this original, but it's not always a major project that's gotta look at.
Shouldn't we have like a version to add that in? Or,
Well, I see, I would suggest something slightly different. So this is for the benefit of the residents in the community. As the board asked us to go add scope. Okay, if it's something like the maintenance shed. I'm not sure that's in here because the citizens don't care about that. It's in the work you do, it's in the financing, but it's not. Community, it's not residents, back out, usually it doesn't turn back.
No, but we could always be adding projects.
Yes, we always can be adding projects and, you know, as they come up and they'll be front of house and back of house. And you're absolutely right. This will be, you know, at some point, you know, we could issue a new version, you know, but right now, I think, you know, as we talk about our priorities, we know we've got a couple of short-term priorities that we want to go do fit within the affordability window, and the direction for it.
Are you okay if we talk?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I liaise, Jacob knows my liaise, I take very seriously, I'm just liaising. I would say the maintenance shed piece, the challenge and why I think it's good, and thank you, Jim, for bringing it up too, is we want to make sure that whatever if the board decides we need to do this and we need to accelerate the timeline, it could impact space, obviously, that's available for some of the things that are in this plan. So we want to make sure we're not making that decision in isolation without involving this group, because there's probably something we're not thinking of, right? I mean, you know, land is a finite resource that we have, and we want to make sure that we're not saying, well, it fits here, so let's do it here, but then realizing that that's going to derail, you know, half of this plan if we try to do something down the road. So I think to your point, it's not a glamorous project. But we do know that we've outgrown the space that we have there. We are getting resident complaints about the facility that we have now because it has more foot traffic and more traffic coming and going from that location. And it's something that we're going to need to figure out. And I just get concerned that I want to make sure that we do it with as minimal disruption to the plan as possible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would like to, since the two people that were on the committee dealing with this, I would like to volunteer to.
Okay, thank you. That's it, thanks.
Hey, one thing, Joe, just welcoming new members. We also have one more that's not here tonight.
Yes,
Catherine was not here, so
yes,
she had a prior obligation, just so you know. To the eye architect, this or that. So-
yes, excited about that. Okay, yes, and Eric, I want to try to get back to the agenda, but I mean, another example that's not in here, or maybe it is, depending on how you interpret it, you know, it's the lakeside playground.
Sure.
And that impacts space potentially, and it impacts finances down.
well, on the note of like more space, are we gaining more space with Island Village, like phase 2, phase 3 as well?
So
Or no, not really, but that's already like all
it
planned.
depends on who you ask. I do know, and Jim, you're probably closer to this than even I am. Madame's been a great partner with us, and they are giving us some space there for maintenance, but it's like a closet. It's not really a place
It's
where,
not, like,
it's not like
nothing to plan out.
no. And
It's a
so,
one-car garage
Yeah.
esque thing next to mailbox kiosk and not
And it
coming
does-
until phase
It's
4.
not such a good.
phase 4, that's the other,
It's beyond our lifetime.
So that's probably 4 or 5 years.
right.
One car garage spec for nav.
A net, yeah.
So it's
Okay.
smaller.
I'm gonna get us back,
It's just ridiculous. So
Rocking everyone up. This is pages 9 through 36, before those survey results, just to reference what the digital version has missing, right, this.
Next, I don't know, what this was stuck on here. I don't know what this means, standardization of meeting minutes.
It's just, meeting minutes moving forward will only be showing quorum and any action items, and any items in discussion won't have synopsises anymore. That's it.
And you're taking those minutes, we take some minutes.
They'll be, yes.
Okey-dokey. Plan, set the meeting schedule. So we have, for the last 2 years, for the most part, definitely last year, put it on the Wednesday sandwich between the two board meetings. So I'd open up the floor for discussion as to keeping that or potentially changing.
I would keep it, we get our finance committee on the calendar. And make sure that none of those are on Wednesdays.
Okay. All right, so, we don't need to make a motion, we're just gonna keep it. If I could ask, so that we get, last year, because of many competing priorities, we were, nomads, with town hall reopening soon, that won't be the case. But at least for the next 2 months, we can send out those meeting notices, or 3 months, send them all out now, and reserve the room. Because last Jones room, we were, the Island Village, various places, and then, then send it out so we can all see it on our calendars.
I don't think we ever miss quorum.
We never miss one.
Lauren, how many other committees have put their calendars out for the
Covenants,
meetings?
Covenants has, ARC has, Finance just did last night. This committee, we had already kind of tentatively reserved the third Wednesday of the month, except for November, December, which would be the second Wednesday of the month because of the holidays, just same as we did last year. We kind of tentatively scheduled everybody's meetings the way they had been happening last year for this year. So you should be good.
The expectation they'd all be at town hall?
Yes, there is a dedicated committee meeting room in town hall.
Yes, I know, yeah. All right, great.
It'll be the collective.
The click room,
Yeah.
Is that what you're calling it?
based on.
They post it, so yeah. Very cool.
It is this way, guys.
We welcome any other sponsors.
Yeah.
For anyone watching at home too.
We notice now, the community is collect,
Yeah.
you know, and so residents can appreciate their.
Oh, that's cool.
So, so as we talk about priorities and projects, I think they, fall to similar sections, and I'll circle back to priorities. But let's talk a little bit about the subsection of projects. I want a brief discussion on splash pad. I talk about sports courts. Jim, thank you for volunteering. We'll, at future meetings, give us an update on, maintenance shed. And, at this point, given where we are financially, I'm not sure how many other projects are short-term should require our energy focus, and work. We clearly will continue to have, issues with playgrounds and other things about baseball, et cetera. But in terms of the short-term priorities, we've got to fit within this window of affordability. So with that, are there any other projects that we think we should discuss today?
Yeah, I didn't get it in time to leave on the agenda for baseball, but obviously I've got a lot of energy there. And, you know, last session for us, we talked about potential of 2 phases. First phase being some sort of reinitiation of a joint use agreement with school districts.
Yeah.
And I'd like to charge hard at that. I think the window right now is open, just based on some conversations I've had with say the groups that are involved. Yeah, so that's one that Lauren and I have had several conversations on. And I think we're drafting up something to present to the board that could be that agreement that allows the opportunity for development in the future. But what we get with that, and just probably important piece of this is what we get with that or can get is baseball fields, which obviously Little League, uses quite a bit. The track, the fields that are open, we got that fence around, but how do we get that more controlled access within our, under our umbrella with park monitors and such?
Right.
So that we can have then, track and basketball courts and open up to the residents. So it's not just a baseball thing, it would be, we go after everything.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of amenities for
Mhm.
much smaller investment than building one.
Excellent. Good, thank you. So we'll put you on that.
I'll take it.
That one.
Sorry, just a question, as I catch up to speed, when did we lose the right to that? Because I felt like usually we had it, right?
3 years ago?
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it had to do with like an agreement with landscape based on like taking some other things and.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. It
It was abrupt based on
Yes.
people's opinions of who should be covering what.
Yeah.
And then it's been complicated by some of the legislation that's been introduced in regards to fencing and security and all that jazz.
I've been studying it for like 3 years now, so I think there's some
I think it's
avenues to get there.
I mean, it was unfortunate how it happened, because we woke up one day, there was a fence and, people couldn't get access to it. And then the school side where they needed to do certain things, but Alex's leadership and others, there's got to be a workable solution and go for it. That's a big piece of land that's.
I will say the positive sentiment out of all this, if you want to spin it positively, is it did wake up the community to realize that that actually isn't crows.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people just
Just
assumed that it was, oh, well, that's part of the crow amenity, right?
Like,
And it's like, well, actually, no. And then it was like, oh, and then so it pushes the reasoning for some of the other things we're trying to do ourselves as well.
Eric, build town hall on that field.
Do you, that's right, yeah.
yeah, town hall, yes. Okay.
That's a good proposal list for one, too.
Yeah,
It's real, but it's fun.
yeah, just
It's fun.
put the baseball field on the roof. Okay, splash pad. I've got two questions on the splash pad. One, I noticed in the Monday Matters, it had different hours for the lakeside swimming pool and the splash pad.
That is correct.
Why is that?
The lakeside pool has certifications for night swim and lighting capable for that. Splash pad does not have those certifications or the lighting.
So currently the sign says till 7 PM or it gets dark.
Mhm.
So is the timer set for 7 PM or is the timer set when it gets dark? So does it get dark at 7 o'clock? This one.
Yeah, it's set for, I think, like 8:30 PM right now.
Perfect. Okay, that's good enough. Thank you. Okay, second question, I'd asked back on February 18th. Here, it's okay. What is the status of the fencing? We have this plastic netting up there for the last couple of months, which obviously, so what is our plan for that?
The builder's been challenging the
Yes.
state request for the addition of fencing. That challenge, or that we've we pushed forward with them saying we're done with this back and forth and that they need to move forward with installing the actual mesh fencing that belongs there. I think that's a fabrication.
Final mesh, what type of final mesh? Plastic mesh?
No, like a cloth.
And you're asking Splash Pad USA to do that?
Yes, they're awesome. It was required by code. The issue is they built multiple of these and it's never been required by code. So that was why it's been in a multi-month chat.
Just get discussion back and forth. Okay, because I thought somebody told me we were asking, we had went out to ask for a design.
Well, I mean, we prefer not to because we know it's going to be a maintenance challenge for cleaning and for replacement, but it all came down to we have to add
Okay.
a barricade around entrapment.
And we've gotten a position to the board to understand potential safety risks of installing the safety fence.
No,
Okay,
it's required by code. We either keep a fence or close the splash pad.
okay.
So what is it gonna be? Sample? What is the end result of whatever that says?
Lauren, do you know the detail on it? I think it's like a heavy.
I would say
canvas.
it's like a like a nylon almost kind of fencing.
Have
I-
you been to the Polynesian splash pad in the
Yeah.
last year?
No.
So
Told him a
It's,
small
a-
child.
it's the same material they use there. It's the reason is they don't want a kid to get underneath that slide area.
Sure.
And so like if
Oh,
you look at any of the Disney
okay.
splash pads,
Yeah.
it's that, it looks like a heavy canvas is a good way to describe it.
Right, so it's only underneath that.
Correct.
Okay, that's part I was trying to understand. Where I said it with, it was actually, okay, what do you do on a hurricane like that? Is that comes to sail quickly? So that's,
Yeah.
is wind loading on it.
Oh, no.
I was concerned with the, putting aside the code issue, which is obviously important, aesthetically, right, this thing is beautiful. Right now it isn't, that's temporary, I understand that for safety reasons. Just when we have this design that it's, doesn't act the aesthetics, but a splash pad was there. Okay. Okie dokie, all right, so that's splash pad, next topic, sports courts. So, no, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna turn it over to Shannon to talk about finances.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay, as you know, home sales are critical for capital. And the good news is so far this year, through April, 141 homes, townhomes, condos have closed. That's, versus 105 through 4 months of last year. So we've earned 614,000 in capital fees versus 448. That's 166,000 more this year through 4 months than we got last year. Now, the majority of that difference is 35 homes that closed in Island Village Phase 2A. The good news is, in May, there's already been about 5 in Phase 2B that are closed first half of the month because they are accelerating Phase 2B construction much faster than they did Phase 2A. And prices are coming down a little bit too, which is attracting other people. Phase 2A, the only things available are the main townhomes and one home that they haven't even started yet. So I think it's gonna slow down in the summer, it always does as far as home sales go. But I'm pretty confident we're gonna get to our 1.6 million that we had forecasted this year. Yeah, so, and we work with Ray on the finance side to make sure we track all that and get it all done.
He's the finance manager.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
What is the 1.6 represent, Jim? How many home sales does the 1.6 represent?
Oh, 300, like we had estimated like 330. That. So. And we're 141 through 4 months, so as long as it keeps going and not,
And how much would the total be for that? You said 1.6? And just for reference,
that's been in our forecast, that's been in our finance forecast with capital plan since the beginning of the year.
and I'm gonna hold you accountable. If I go back to last July,
Yeah,
it was the same number you had as last July. You had 1.456. So a year later, I'm not sure.
yeah, because we knew that
It's
there
running live,
were closings in Island Village.
because I know sometimes people question your ability to forecast and point out.
Yeah, that's okay.
That
Jacob.
things change, they go, they come, but.
He's gonna pull up the capital plan.
Okay,
Okay.
and well, yeah, okay, well, you can find out, I'm just also. So
Just go.
Lauren and Jacob, one of the things I think would be helpful, so we don't have any miscommunication, is Jim, what you sent out that spreadsheet.
Yeah.
If the management company has any issues with that, right, it would be good to discuss that, discuss the finance committee and then report it out to us, because just for reference, last year, there was 2 different versions of it. There was some confusion in the Crow meeting where I was standing up with one set of numbers and there was another set.
Well, this is what's been spent and what's come into the capital fund,
Right.
Through the first 4 months. Now, again, operating still owes capital fund $825,000.
Yeah.
Of capital fees that have been collected that never got pushed over. And if you would just go to the 2026 tab.
This is receivables. Are you gonna show, what's the balance right now?
Receivables?
No, the balance is there.
The balance is here.
The balance is,
Oh. Right there.
767.
What do you mean?
Okay, go ahead.
What's currently in the Idaho funds?
Oh.
Current balance.
Current balance? Go down, 1.4 million. 1429.
1429. And then that dips down a little bit more when we make the last payment for 851.
Right.
And
Now,
then it holds steady basically. for the rest
Yeah.
of the years.
and May's not gonna be that high according to our meeting the other day, but I didn't reduce it, and if we don't spend the total that we had estimated. Sure, 4.2 million. Then that'll be good too.
Yeah, so if I go to the December year to date, just tell you, Jim, how I interpreted this. This would say at the end of the year, there's 1.165074, so 1.1 million in the capital fund. And that's assuming 658,000 gets spent on the multi-purpose sports courts.
You're interpreting it correctly. Now, the issue is the board going to approve other capital projects?
Okay, yeah.
Things like that.
So, sure, right,
So-
so spend money on playgrounds or maintenance sheds, but as currently constructed, that's correct. But I would say something different.
Yeah.
If we,
Right.
it goes back to the commonality. If maintenance shed, a playground, it theoretically would be, we would be making a recommendation and they would either agree or disagree and say, we disagree, we want to go spend money on the maintenance anyway. But so we understand all the projects coming through here, or they should say, you know what, this one's not gonna go through you guys, we're just gonna go do it because we don't need any help. That's fine too, but just so because otherwise we'll be going with this set of numbers and you guys will say, we did tell you we want to spend $1 million on something.
That it's like, I think that was like a big thing, because like, I want to figure out a way that we can all be on the same page, like finance, master plan, the board. Because like, there are some things like, I know we have to talk about like the gazebo at Spring Lake, and yeah, it's not been discussed, but it's something that just, I'm gonna use this all hypothetical, because in my mind, it's just like an example of how other projects can work. We have reserve funds set aside, but sometimes based on like, the project, it might make more sense to go with, a different route, maybe enhance it, or maybe like the reserve fund isn't enough, so we need extra funding, and it'll make it even better at the same time, so it constitutes as like a capital project. So we can't just ignore something like that. So we would need to draw from capital then. But like, how do we make sure that like master plan is aware? I mean, I don't know if finance knows that project is coming up. I think it's on our agenda for the next meeting. So like, that could be something where finance is like,
Okay, but they're replacing it?
Good news on that one, it is calculated in the reserve forecast, and where the bids received are within the reserve.
Yeah, so that'd be reserved.
So,
because-
but what they're, yes.
I would use this playground as a good example, though, the one right here, though.
Yeah.
Because ignore everything that happened before we actually built the thing, okay? But with this out here, we had a reserve amount, right? But we knew that we wanted to go beyond that. And so then it dips into more of the capital side, pulling from that reserve, but then we know we had X money for reserve. We could do a like for like, but we didn't, we wanted to plus it. So there's gonna be other situations where,
I think Lakeside Playground probably, which you guys are aware
yeah,
of,
So,
will probably fall into that.
and the reason it's more, it's important, obviously, for a lot of reasons. But specifically for the sports courts, the reason it's important is because if we've got 600,000 here and still have $1 million left over,
Mhm.
okay. And next year, you just flip the numbers and say, okay, we got $1 million for the sports courts and $1 million left over. Okay, but that's 1.6. If the sports courts cost 1.8, then we don't proceed with the sports courts. If you're thinking in your mind, we just have to look.
That's,
We don't have to agree to, you guys, we don't have to agree, but we also be looking at the same set, the same, data. So that when we say, listen, we would like to proceed, because what I wrote down here is, I'd like for us to go to the July, CROA meeting and recommend putting the sports courts out to bid. And one of the questions would be how much, don't know. Okay, but if it takes 18 months to complete or 16 months, based upon the finance committee's projections, there should be enough money as long as it costs under X. Right? But
And doesn't it ultimately boil down to you keep on pushing the strategic plan aside to satisfy the people that yell the most, right?
well, I mean, the lakeside playground, that is part, I think that was that.
No, I mean like the gazebo.
The
The
gazebo,
stuff, like you keep on like pushing this aside to like satisfy these people and then like.
well,
these
that's
guys-
been, we had to hire an engineer.
Oh,
for-
right,
for
right.
over a year ago.
So
So
like
like,
an example,
yeah, we have to,
Right.
like, so that's the problem, like, we have like these responsibilities that we have to do for the community.
yeah,
At the same time, we want to also do the master plan.
yeah,
I
it's like a
just
balance.
Want
too.
everyone to be on the same page through the process, because in the beginning, the capital fund was like, what, 4 or 5 million, so it wasn't that tight. Now we have to really be strategic in how we like space out all these things, and we want to make sure everyone's on the same page. And not like have any kind of like expectations, and then it's like, well, we don't wanna disappoint anyone, or I don't want to.
So I think it's that balance between a reserve funding project, like you said, this gazebo, and something we don't have money for. And then the decision has to be, what's the priority? The thing we don't have money for, is that an amenity that's valuable enough to reinvest in, or do we continue it? Like, and then.
Yeah.
Right, like who's to
So-
say like, why does the playground gets all the bells and whistles
Sure.
more than what's reserved?
Okay, but
or
again,
maintenance shed
remember-
or versus sports courts.
there's specifics as to what comes out of the capital fund and what comes out of the reserve fund.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Capital fund, so for example, with the maintenance shed, if we're gonna expand it and build new, that would come out of capital. If we're just going to clean up the existing structure, that's gonna come out of reserves. So if we're gonna put in new stuff at the lakeside part, one could argue that could be capital, but if
For the
we're
lakeside.
replacing it, no, if we're replacing it with the exact same thing, then that's a reserve.
And there's also items that come up with Lakeside Playground being an example. While it is up for replacement as a reserve, the money allotted in reserves is short. So to even replace like to like,
But that's the same.
there's a
Yes,
deficit.
that's a big.
So then it's, where do you cover the deficit?
So,
And then you come down to an amenity that already exists in the community must remain existing and accessible in the community per the charter.
so what I view, Joanna, is the objective of this group is to take these projects that are here and be the strong advocate. So next up, sports groups. We are the strong advocate to the board to do it. Okay, they then say, okay, well, I've got 3 other things I gotta juggle, and they'll make that decision. We won't go advocate necessarily to put more heaters in swimming pools. We'll say we're advocating for the next big project here. We will push hard. We will get fact-based discussion. And then we will trust our elected officials to implement it as quickly as they can. But our goal has to be to really push the projects, because if we don't push them, by default, nobody's.
Couple questions. The gazebo, your head hits on it. Who's designed it? In other words, it needs to be designed in such a way that it doesn't fail again. So, the structure of that failed for a reason. It doesn't have the correct base upon its columns. So how's it being designed? What material is made out of? Et cetera. That's what I'm concerned about, is what is the base design that the bids are based on? And is it detailed correctly so it does not fail again?
There was a full engineer analysis and report on how it needed to be repaired, including a separate, oh, Jacob, correct me, it was somebody with the soil samples in there too.
Soil, yeah.
Yeah. So we had two different engineering reports recommending how to fix this, and that was what was taken out to bid to the different entities.
Right. Again, the point you guys be careful about force of engineering reviews of things. That was probably what you want. And the engineering report said 1.9 million. Sorry, it's not it. I close to it. That looked at this aspect of it, not the entire thing, and everything's really, So that's what I'm concerned about, is just making sure that it really is correct that's going out to bid and replacing it with something that works. So that's my comment on that. Maintenance shed thing. How many of those folks are gonna move to 851 that you don't have a huge line of cars? It's
None.
None. So that is, we're stuck with it.
Correct.
400 trucks in Smart City now up in their vans here 200.
Correct. It's an issue.
That is from.
But we never got a final decision on Smart City and do that other.
I think we did.
Apparently they did have. some-
They have legal rights.
Not sure it's Smart City.
They don't have to pay any. Do we know?
No, they
that
don't
for
have to
sure?
pay anything. They have legal rights. They have an easement. The,
Smart City does too. How did they
Yes.
obtain it being later? I'm curious how they did it being much later to the party. So somebody did a brilliant job with that.
Yeah.
so Smart City inherited their rights from the initial company that got the rights from Disney.
Good job on them. Next thing I'm concerned about with that is just what can we build, and what's allowed on the property itself. So that is something that architects need to take a look at it and figure out what actually can be done. I'm not convinced you can add much to it without doing all sorts of stuff to that. And
It's still of your parking and
no, it's not.
operation in a residential
As a matter of
area.
fact, There's no way you can say there's parking for it. It's part of the problem if you try to make bigger. Why it's parking. But I'm not sure we can actually build it right there with real setbacks and other things that occur, allowed square footage.
Yeah, expanding the footprint is,
Probably possible, I think, but anyway, needs to be looked at. If that's serious concern, is hiring an architecture firm, take a look at it, or a little more depth to see if it's even possible.
It should, as
Based on the
That's-
survey results, I don't think you can expand that shed at all, really.
Yeah, that's my inclination. I imagine it's stuff in there already.
so, Jim, I took it to do last year and failed. And so maybe you could try one more time with the help of Katie and Eric. You know, they're the CCD, whatever these guys are. They've had a huge maintenance shed up on, and I spoke to them, to people I know well as friends, to say, is there any possibility we could share some of that? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I got the same response.
Okay.
Asking probably the same people.
Right, yeah, but so people I know well, like, and eat, and drink with it, and they say no. But I just think, do you ever have any leverage with them on another topic? Because that, they have more space than we do, and I believe, having looked at the plans, somebody gave me the plan, that could, maybe not all of our needs, but some of our needs. You know, if you have a satellite campus there, satellite campus where it currently is, satellite campus in Island Village.
Where's their shed?
The shed's right corner.
At their office.
Oh, is it?
They got this
their
huge,
office is their center.
office
I mean,
space.
that's too.
Oh, wow.
this huge shed, parking
They're
lot.
trying to use lot B, Pro is lot B for staging, massage and deliveries because they don't have the space there,
Good.
but
There's not anymore.
I'm not much longer.
Much longer.
So I do think that it would be helpful from the board's perspective. What I'm hearing to the guidance is we need to actually look at what's reserved this year. Because I think we talk about that at the board level and probably at finance, but it doesn't necessarily come here.
What are the exposures to that?
And exactly, because
So
I
that-
think we think about it saying, oh, well, it's reserved, but we know that it's gonna be some wiggle room when we get to the numbers side of it, which then impacts other discussions. And then maybe that's also an opportunity for when we come back and we go, you know, to the point of, we look at the playground at Lakeside, for example, and then we say, well, maybe there's an argument not to plus it for whatever reason, because there's something else in the plan that's going to offset it. or we decide that we necessarily, I think that that's maybe an action item that we can take back to say, is
Yeah.
well,
I
we.
mean, I'll say in practice, we try to. That's actually why when you look at Lakeside Playground, why it's being discussed at
No,
the master plan level at all, because we see the shortfall in the reserve replacement on it.
So Jacob and Jim and Eric, so I think it's an excellent point. And just to say, listen, worst case, just so it's a line item on here.
Sure.
Okay, if the gazebo takes 100,000 to be fixed and there's only 50,000 in reserve, you could come knocking on the door saying, need another 50 out of here. Okay, just so we have a range.
Right.
Because it's gazebo, it's playground. Pick the other 2 or 3, because otherwise somebody's gonna say, well, gee, I don't know, the 1-1. We can't spend that 1-1 because we got, well,
Right.
we know what the exposure is. It's 300,000 if you've got to come up.
So what would you like? What would you suggest?
I'm just suggesting, take the 3, put a line item, Jim, in here
Okay,
for
the playground.
well, not the playground,
Just
just.
reserves. If there's any shortfalls for any
If- if-
reserve.
there's-
So for the
so
playground, I
there's-
can tell you, it's probably like
the-
what? Go ahead, Lauren, sorry.
I was gonna say, the one item that we've brought to this committee from the reserve study, because we knew there was a shortfall, was the Lakeside Playground. We haven't had other projects coming up yet since this committee's been, rolling and moving forward to bring to them. So when management sees a shortfall in the reserve study, we need to start the process of having those conversations with finance, with MPAG, and then coming to the board. I think that's the best process moving forward. That's why we
Yeah.
started this whole Lakeside Playground process. We started it first with the rec committee and said, okay, if we need to replace this, what do you want? What does the community want to see in this playground? And then we got some soft numbers to that. We brought it to this committee and said, look, we're gonna exceed the reserve study even just to replace it like for like. So just have this on your radar. And then once we have some harder numbers, it'll come to back to finance and back to MPAC to address.
Yeah.
I would say like hypothetically though, like I think the reserves for the playground is like what, around 120, 140?
I think that
Is that-
maybe, yeah, but
So say something like that. This playground was 400. So we're talking like a difference between what, like 250,000 out of capital. That's just like completely hypothetical, complete estimate. So I don't know if something like that, just to put in as like a space holder into your projections would help kind of like set expectations.
Well, yeah, it's yes, but there would be because this was a complete rebuild here, I believe, right? As
Well,
opposed to a replace downtown.
No, we're gonna be having to replace everything.
It'd be the same thing, because it would be the safety surface, the playground.
And it's still resurfacing, got rid of all the roots that are underground,
Also, it is.
regraded.
Yeah, but I think, so,
But it's
Wait, wait,
rebuilt
so
at the same line.
let me ask you a question. We're going back to the play deck. Like that's the
we
intent.
don't know, but the idea
There's
is,
a difference between removing all the roots and getting it level and regrading the base and then putting on a play surface, right? Those are enhancements.
It's also weather safety.
yeah,
No, not removing the roots, right? But
Yeah.
putting down a new surface.
Yeah.
Is an enhancement, unless there's new code that requires us to change that.
Yep.
oh, it's mulch. No, it's like
yeah.
so
It's
needs to be
true.
removed and
I think, so this is me, I'm new, so I'm gonna play I'm the new guy card here. I think where I need to change my thinking of this is I always thought of the capital fund as the capital fund that multiple things pull out from. And I think that this committee it's more of the capital fund is impacts fund. And so that's the number that they're working from. And then, so what I need to think about in my mind is anything that the board, and maybe I'm the only one that didn't have this understanding right, so I may be the anomaly. But it's, if there's anything that we think is going to touch that capital fund, no matter what, even if we're gonna add drinking fountains or something crazy like that, we need to make sure that that is before this group so that we know that that's gonna impact the number overall. Is that fair?
It's excellent, and that we would prioritize it based upon our work, and then you will do what you, at least we'll come saying, hey, listen, here's, we think sports courts need to be second, we can do playground first, and then
Sure.
here's our priority order. And then you, listening to all the other groups and functions and Parks and Rec and everything else that you do, will say, fine, thank you for your input. We've studied it and this is what we're good.
And to Katie's point, we're much more tighter now than we were 2 years ago before town hall.
So I think we gotta just figure, like Eric was saying, communicate much more with
Right.
the different groups since, things are kind
Yeah.
of like moving along. These are all really good things happening. So,
You didn't see these issues because the first two projects were town hall and splash pad, and
Yeah.
there were funds, and now it's,
We have funds for the sports courts.
yeah,
But
Yeah,
just remember that the reserve fund, there's an agreement every year in the budget as to how much of our dues are going to go to that reserve fund, where the capital fund gets the capital fee, very little of. Yeah, so last year was 1.1, this year it's 1.4. Well, we bought the cars and the trucks, furniture, one payment was made. So through April, we have 800,000 left. If we wanted to keep it at that 1.4, which we leave it still at $1 million as far as the reserve fund.
So to say what Joanna said before in a much harsher way. What we need to be aware of is that if we are under reserved and we solve the under reserving by taking money out of the capital fund, which is allowable, then how does that impact our ability to implement these projects? Right? Because you've got your hands on all of this, right? And try not to, because one could make the argument for under reserved. And we need to increase the reserves, simply said, either lower costs somewhere else really hard or raise speeds. But because there's not enough money going to be left over here to fund reserve shortfalls.
Sure.
Right? You could take a couple 100,000 more out of here and then you're going to start running out of money. So it's got to be, that.
Well, and that, to me, that's a short-term fix, right?
Yes.
Because it's, I don't want to steal every single year.
Okay.
And it's like, we're not solving the actual challenge.
And quite frankly, not solving the problem. We might have stolen for reserves this year, right? We've stolen from operating,
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
right? Just operate,
Okay.
right?
That's another subject.
You can't move money from the reserve anywhere.
Right.
But you can take it out of capital.
That's what I'm saying is that we're robbing to shuffle.
Okay.
For such ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, one quick question, if there is money's back, whatever it is for each one at that point, I assume that goes back to capital fund, was it should.
it goes back to a credit on final payment.
So you're taking it off the building.
Correct.
Okay, and that's still savings,
Correct.
in theory, on the
Less
capital.
added.
Right, so it's out of here.
which would adjust like the,
Which would have just, that's what I said, it
Yeah.
towards
Yes.
at some point, we'll have a little bit of more of a balance, it's, yes,
Yes.
that's fair.
Okay. I meant to ask this early on. Last year we got from the administrative resolution for the master plan advisory group. This was a document that we got.
We can send that out to you.
Okay, so we should see that because what this said, like for this year. This year, it said, priorities, and it said build splash pad, oversee 851 renovation. Okay, and establish multi-purpose plans for future development, including budget concept, RFP preparation as necessary for the multi-purpose sports groups. So I would assume that for the 2026, 2027 project year, it would say sports courts or whatever, just so we're clearly
So-
communicating.
It wasn't sent out because the meeting that was adopted, Katie and Eric weren't there and they had some suggested changes that didn't get added into the resolution. So it's going back onto the board agenda so you guys can have a clear resolution.
Thank you, because I think it'd be important to this group. That, we went through all this other mumbo jumbo stuff about be nice to people, but this kind of is our old fashioned performance plan. Right, this is your performance plan for this, what we expect from you, right, and And to the extent we get it, and we have an issue with it, then rather than 6 months from now saying, hey, we're talking about this, we need to read this. Okay, thank you. Let's just now talk about the multi-purpose sports courts, and Robert, if you want to benefit, right? This is the, a lot of hard work. We now have a completed set of architectural plans for a full-size basketball court, 2 half-court basketball courts, 1 volleyball court, 6 pickleball courts, 6 cornhole courts, 4 four-square courts, 2 bocce courts, right? And seating for 50 people, 2 bathrooms, storage room, an IT room, legally required parking, bike rooms. So we have this, this great plan that's combined future, bocce and courts, and took the pickleball courts project, and we took all these projects, we put them together, and with the leadership of Mark, figured out how to all squeeze it onto the very tiny lot. Okay, and it's there, and it's tight. The pickleball people wish there was more space there. Somebody wishes there was more space there. You know, somebody wants more of this. Everybody wants more something, but it's pretty darn good for where we're at. So what I wanted to talk a little bit about is schedule. And these are dates that are significantly different than the dates that I presented back to the board in January, because these dates assumed we had funding, and that was pre borrowing of the money, you know, to solve the other issues where, you know, I thought we had more, we did. But in any case, I think, is it reasonable? I'll ask everybody in the room, but specifically Lauren and Jacob, and Mark and others, that I think we're, sorry, Katie and Eric, on the July 8th board meeting, or whatever you call that person. I think we want to come, say, here's the RFP, and we'd like to proceed with it. Right? And we'd like to, you know, issue the RFP by August 1st. We'd like to get the responses back and select by October 1st. So that we probably, despite the fact that Jim has graciously given us $658,245. Now, some of that is spent 150, 175 for the plans. Some of that was spent.
That's already been,
Well, but no, this is a year-to-date number, 658. So some of that was spent last. Anyway, in either case, there's this placeholder here, but this would say we probably would not award and start until December-ish, so that 600,000, majority of that would roll over to next year.
Would that be the first town hall meeting, July, or,
Yeah, June 10th will be the first.
oh, June 10th?
June 10th.
Is
That's the
first
ribbon
pro work
cutting ceremony.
Yep.
Right.
directly
And
after
then-
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think visually that'd be good.
it should go out to bid, then you're gonna know what the real number is.
Then we'll know what the real number is, and we have all the affordability and start dates, finish dates, and
Yeah.
From that, you end up with a qualified contractor that can really work with you on timing and
if we need to change scope,
schedule and anything else.
add or reduce scope
Yeah.
to get to where we are.
Correct.
I mean,
You won't know what costs, it costs what you put it out to bid at this point, the prices can be all over the place.
Is management good with that approach, or like, what do you, the RFP, what, in July with the December start date, is that
Yes, yeah.
workable?
That's what was discussed at the last meeting, and that Impact was working on the RFP.
Yeah, okay, but well, so 2 things. One, I still haven't gotten the documents I need to do the RFP. But second, now that we're into the June timeframe, are you all still too busy to do the RFP?
We can work on the RFP. Well,
Can we work on it together?
after, once we're in the building, right now, there's no
Get no
possibility.
bandwidth to
Absolutely.
You didn't get a copy of the RFP.
the design plans. I did, I got.
They're
Person-
in your inbox, Joe,
As of when?
as of today. You got the prior RFPs, you got all the other
Yeah, I got the
documents, and you had
RFPs,
all the
everything.
draft, you had all the draft documents, and then you
Yes, I
had the
did.
final design stuff today.
Thank you. Okay, good. Okay, so does this date seem reasonable to everybody?
Looking at you guys. What,
That's
July,
only about 4 weeks.
July for the RFP to be complete? Right, in
It's issuing in August though, is that what you said?
July, and
So that's,
so that would be our July workshop, right? Which is,
Well, I think what we need to figure out is the July workshop, what's gonna be the ask of the board at that time? Is it going to be the ask to move forward with the RFP?
Yes.
yes,
And I think that's fine, because we don't expect to have the RFP done by the July workshop, but it's essentially to get consensus with the
Yes.
board to say.
Well, and, I think it's move forward with the
No, I think
RFP,
you're-
get it out to the street.
No,
I think that their plan is to work and generate the RFP for a proposed review to post in July.
No,
No?
work the RFP, the ask is, can we proceed with the RFP, which is, you create the document, you get it out to bid, you get numbers back. Next time we would come back, check me.
Yeah.
Is, okay, we got numbers back.
Yes.
Where do we go?
right,
October.
to me, that's reasonable,
Yeah.
because that gives you guys time to get into the building, number one, and then we can figure out to make sure we get the thumbs up from the rest of the board. This is what we want to do, and then we move forward with it, and then the intention would be that what did you say, October? No,
Yeah, yes,
October.
October selection.
We would do the community presentation.
Yeah.
And then they work, this is gonna, well,
And then,
threshold.
Yes.
And then in order for us to meet that December date in October, it's gotta be a decision. Because then
Yeah,
they.
that
Contract.
November contract.
Right.
gotta get rest of permits.
We can sell for.
The civil stuff should be leaving anyway, so I think the discussion has been that they get civil permit ahead of time,
Which is,
which I
The
think
civil
is.
stuff-
civils is out. Civils
Right.
Yeah,
Civil
civil process.
processes.
Civils in-
Civil permit is in.
is it,
Yes,
Yeah, we already voted
Yes.
on that, remember?
yeah.
Yeah, the,
totally
the
should.
committee was already
Do that.
informed that civil permitting is in. They filed it with the county, they filed it with CF Todd, and they filed it with E ECDD.
So they,
that's-
do
that's
we know if it's gotten to South Florida Water Management District yet? Because that can be a 6-month process.
As of a week ago, not yet. No, it's with CF Todd, but they do expect it to move faster with
Okay, I'll
stormwater.
reach out to them tomorrow, and just see what's that.
So anyway, that's been in process, knowing that that could hold it all up.
Because if there's a iteration with CF Todd when it comes to the civil packages like that. So they're gonna do their internal review, they'll provide comments, we have to respond to the comments, and then they'll release it for South Florida. So it can take some time.
Who's CF Top?
The
Central Florida Tourism
Over District.
Oh, it's
Formerly
Reedy
Reedy
Creek, thank you, sorry. I forget that I'm getting old, and I know the old name.
Reedy Creek.
Yeah, we're Reedy Creek, okay, thank you.
Yeah. We're good. Okay.
Yeah. And obviously until it goes out of bid, we don't really know what the number actually is, so that's a point that we really can tell where we're at with it. Yeah, and see what we need to do for money, but obviously, it's not gonna take that long to build this thing, quite frankly, so if it starts in December, it's gonna be done. It's not a 10-month thing, it's a much shorter, so it'd be done by the end of.
But that's a good point, though, because then we need to make sure we have the cash on hand.
Right.
At that time, because kind of with 851, we kind of knew, well, it's gonna take them a little bit to get there, so we're gonna.
Yeah,
need the-
so this will be
Find
a
a
little.
donor that might want their,
Listen, I'll put pretty much any name they want on the side of this thing, if they want to, if they want to kick some money for it. So, no, I think that makes sense. From an infrastructure standpoint too, I mean, there's nothing too crazy with this because there's already electric, there's already water, there's already sewer there. So it's not anything earth shattering, I think, either.
No.
It's been monster stuff.
Yeah, stormwater.
It's pretty straightforward.
Cool.
Gotta do it.
okay. Any other comments, questions, discussion points?
Obviously, after that, that's probably maybe to think about whatever the next things are, if it does take design work to get that process going.
Good. Yeah.
So that we have some clue what the future things may cost. Gonna go through the same
Same
process.
process, because
Yeah. because it
Because-
definitely works, instead of shooting in the dark, get a design done.
Right. And I think that the next crunch point, before we get a lot of work to do before we get back to responses to the RFP. But the key discussion at that point is to have a pretty solid view as to finances out 18 months. The supply and demand, basically, who's gonna want to be grabbing out of that money, right? And then do we have a discussion, can the playground wait while we finish sports courts? No, they can't, can they? And everything wait to the finish sports. Some of it may be legal issues, safety issues. No, these can't wait. And then whether or not you want to wait will be your decisions. But obviously, just going back to us getting this, and as we know, every year that goes by, this sports courts have been talked about for a long time, or the pickleball courts, not sports courts. Just every year goes by, it costs a huge amount.
What's the budget look like now? Let's.
What do you mean, like, once we start the budget?
Yeah.
We start preparing for the budget in the summer, and then it's like
Cause as we think about next project, and how the funds are lining up, the joint use agreement is unlikely to be a capital investment. It will be a recurring. So I just want to make sure that we catch the budget cycle on.
I think you would want to, if you have any ideas, you probably want to talk to Jim, because finance committee will start preparing for next year's budget this summer.
Okay.
So management's
Yeah.
already,
Yeah.
management started drafting budgets this month. The department head submitted theirs at the end of April. Ray's combining them all now, and it'll go to board and finance for first draft in June.
Okay, and Lauren,
So if there's
based
any
on what
number-
you and I chatted, right, we know what
Yep.
annual is. Do you know if that's, in the discussion at this point or not yet?
It's one of our line items in there, and it's flagged as a potential.
At the value that we talked?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good, good. So it's already there. I'm just thinking, as we think about our ability to execute on plan, if we've got something like that we can intermediately take credit for, because it's an add to the amenity list that the community has available without the significant investment of a capital expenditure.
I mean, I think the harsh reality is going to be when we're done with 851, let's assume we get to the sports courts, each year. And assuming the budget is balanced and we don't need to take. When they take some money, because we're under reserve potentially in places, so that's going to be a fact. We're going to have to, spend 400,000 for a playground and only have 100 something reserves. But the reality is, it's only going to be $1.5 million potentially for all the capital projects each year.
Yeah.
Without much borrowing, right? And so it may be, so we just have to say, okay, that's our envelope. Okay, so that's $4 million over 4 years, or $5 million over 4 years. Now let's lay out, these projects and lay out how we prioritize it.
But if you get less, assuming the village is fully built out and the home sales don't turn south. So it could even be potentially less.
Yeah, we've got, yes, we do,
What they just happened prior.
I think, Jim, how many more years? We have an artificial bump.
Yeah. Well, there's some talk that they may combine phases 3 and 4, because small. They've already started to clear the ground and field the bridge.
That's the bridge, right?
Yeah. So,
But there's no Island Village 5.
but you're talking, because phase 2B. A lot more homes and houses that are gonna have to be built. So that's gonna take at least all of this year into next year. And depending on the market. People keep moving down from the Midwest and the Northeast, then it'll be great. But if that stops, then, there were a lot, even in the homes in phase 2A, there's a number of them that lived in other parts of Celebration that decided to go there. So, and some people in apartments in Iowa Village that decided to get townhomes, things like that. So it's still very positive.
it's like things that are going on the market are selling pretty quick. One comment on the maintenance shed thing. There are some random spots on the Chinsky CCDD land that something might just happen to fit, that there might be discussions about that. One in particular is where we looked at baseball fields once again, I should go to school. There's so, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
These are.
That to me, because right now they're dumping stuff there already.
Yeah.
And like so junk that's built up behind the tree and where the bike is. Anyway, there is space there to build something. That maybe just working on that or maintenance that takes care of Island Village from an area like that. But CCDD that creates something there that they both, they can tuck in that land. The fun part with it is the gas lines are going through. It's like rough to watch. But there is land there that should be used. That should be used, quite frankly. Yeah, because it's not talking enough that it's not visible. So might be opportunities there. They also have random stuff here that probably ought to get more creative about seeing what they have available.
Well, there's a lot of room on the land, like when you're going down into Island Village, by toward the bridge. On the left hand side.
Oh, yeah.
That could be an area that.
That's interesting for kind of where there's that little trail that goes on anyway.
Well, yeah, they did see trucks to go into.
Yeah.
Things too, but they're not using them.
Well, it's fun truck down there.
Yeah.
I do think that, I mean, it's a good point because one of the things that bluntly concerns me about the land discussion is that, and I haven't even talked about this to the board yet, but there's a good chance we're gonna need to figure out how to buy land. And that's yet another fee, another, capital outlay that we would need to figure out on how that would work. I don't necessarily see, I would love for a partnership to work out with the CDD where we would share some sort of a space. The conversations haven't been either fast enough or productive enough for that to work. I also think both of us have a need for space and they really know that whatever facility we build, we're probably gonna occupy most of it. So we do need to look at that, but there's the land discussion on where do you put the darn thing?
Yeah, and that's where I think that particular piece, I was just talking about Bunch Village, should be interesting. That's something that could serve both. The other thing is really trying to look at this of what do you really need? Of how many vehicles, how many people in each area to try to figure out what that need actually is somehow. So we're not, you're right sizing it, not doing something weird.
Sure.
So trying to understand that, to really understand the program we're going to need versus what they need. And figure out where it can fit.
You say about land, I don't know if it's, I don't think it's a financial thing. I don't think they're trying.
No, true, yeah. And I think that, because I mean, even when we
We've tried to find people on Boulevard, and
Well,
they won't talk.
There's something, because all of us sit there when we're watching flag football or soccer, is going off in the Watt F.
Yeah.
Is there any space there sticking in this building or probably at the end of that rest?
Because we know baseball fields fit there without touching the lake.
Okay,
So
I thought
there's something out there, because that's the same difference.
the issue, well, okay, that's a really good question. Lauren, I'm gonna tag you here, so heads up. The issue that we always had with Lot F was that Celebration Company required it to be an iconic building. Now, if they're not as in the mix anymore, would that no longer apply if we were to put something there? Because we don't want to build an iconic looking maintenance shed.
Well, I don't think we have to.
It
That
depends
was
on
something
how-
that's accessed off the.
But it was anything though that we wanted to put there, they said, because it could be viewed from
Right.
that area, yeah, which to me is a stretch. But
So it depends on how that specific lot is zoned, from my understanding in previous conversations with Todd Rimmer. So I can go in and look and see if that zoning still applies. Otherwise, potentially you could build what you want. I do know from anecdotal conversations, when I first started, the board at that time was looking at building something on Lot F, and they had brought somebody in to look at it. and it was gonna take an exorbitant amount of money to just put basic fill down to make it buildable.
Yeah,
You're gonna spend
That
money.
depends on what it was. I will say.
I think that was when we were still looking at planning on putting a community center there.
Yeah, that's a big difference. It's something smaller. Yeah, I haven't looked at a survey of what the last soccer fields are. Is there space at the end of that still? So in other words, it's not necessarily going in that. So
So
if
it
you
drops down.
yeah, before it goes that way, there's land this way in the corner.
I think if we were to do that, though,
So you have to have a road.
you need to put a road to it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then I'd come in from the other side probably, because I wouldn't want trucks
Make
going.
that four-way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
I think it's look, I think it's a good point to look at that.
Yeah, gotta keep looking, because it's not an easy answer. Okay,
Anyway. That'll be clear.
any other topics, questions, comments?
The ribbon cutting ceremony is 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. or to 6:30 on the Wednesday, June 10th. We're gonna be formally announcing that later this week, but we wanted to invite our master plan committee to that as well. We will be doing the building, soft opening of resident services on Monday, the 8th of that week. And if any of you are in town and can't make that, let me know and we can show you the full building.
You said 5 or 6:30?
The ribbon cutting is from 5 to 6:30, with the cutting probably at 5:15.
We have our workshop is right after.
Directly after at 6:30.
Okay.
You're supposed to be standing.
So still taking out of our budget.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, there's no other questions, comments? Motion to close. Good. Thank you, everybody.
If I can get your signed copies of the Exhibit A.
Or your pen.
Yes.
Do.
I was just gonna let it go. Like, I think